guys, it's Charlie with Commuting and Crime with Charlie. I hope you guys are having a good day today. So our case today comes out of Duxbury, Massachusetts in 2021. There was a guy named Scott Callahan, 58 years old, who had a long history of substance abuse, alcohol abuse, and really erratic, abusive, belligerent behavior. Speculation was, or what people were saying, that it was a result of some traumatic head injury that he had resulted that altered his personality and behavior. So on this particular night, Scott was out drinking. And I don't know if he called his son for a ride or if his son went to get him, but at some point, Jack Callahan, 19 years old, went to pick him up at the bar. Now, Jack knew that his mother didn't want Scott at the house because of his behavior and just argumentative, and she just didn't want to deal with it. So I don't know how or why they wind up at this lake in Duxbury, Mass. And at some point, Jack says that his father got really belligerent and actually physically abusive. So they got into an altercation. So at some point, Scott must have been either knocked out or disabled in somehow. And I don't know why or how or the reasoning behind it. So Jack decided that he needed to baptize his father, basically perform an exorcism on him to remove this behavior, to be able to get him to just be like he was before the injury. That's according to him. So he brings Scott into the lake, and I don't know if Scott regained consciousness or if it was just whatever was going on with Jack. He winds up actually drowning his father, and he passes. So he leaves him there, and then he winds up leaving the scene. And then at some point, I don't know if it was him or his mom or whoever, they wind up notifying the authorities, and they find Scott's body in the lake, and he's passed. So Jack went to trial, and he was found guilty of, he basically confessed to his father's demise, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Now, one of the things that really sticks out in this case is what actually drove Jack to that. Obviously as an alibi, not as an alibi, but as a motive or as an excuse, if I accidentally kill somebody, I don't think saying that I was trying to perform an exorcism and baptize them so that they would stop acting the way they did would be something that the DA or a jury would buy. If it was because of the fact that they got into an altercation and his father was drunk and something happened and he accidentally caused his father's demise, that would have made more sense to me to use that as a defense. And I'm sure the evidence would have backed it up. There was evidence that there was an altercation. Now, again, we weren't there. We're only getting it from Jack's side of the story, so we don't know who initiated the altercation. It could have been Jack that started it, or it could have been, like he said, Scott started it. But there was definitely proof that there was some type of altercation. Jack did have some marks on him and some cuts and bruises, from evidence at the scene, that was evident. But to me, as a law enforcement, former detective, it's just, I don't know, it sends out this flag to me of the warning signs that were there. And I know it's very hard to deal with a family member that has issues like that, especially if it's caused by, severe head trauma. And I know a lot of times we still have this stigma and taboo about mental health issues, and they're not addressed. And sadly, when these people wind up in the criminal justice system, it's at the point where they've already committed something or done something that there's no turning back from. And sadly, the criminal justice system, as much as they might try, just they're not equipped to deal with someone that has underlying mental health issues. they can try, they can put them on medications, they can, but you know, it's again not something that you can literally shove medication down their throat or mandate it, unless, you know, it's gotten to the point that they're so disabled mentally, incapacitated, that someone is their proxy, or the court has deemed that they're just not able to take care of themselves and they're put into some form of conservatorship, and then someone else dictates their routine and their medications. I find this case really extremely sad, just because of the fact that a 19-year-old man, I'm sorry, sometimes I think of 19-year-olds as still kind of men, children, because they haven't really started living life yet. Basically, that night his life ended just as much as his father's. And the fact that we'll never know the horrors or the underlying trauma that Jack had suffered because of the situation. So it's a really sad situation all around. And one of the things that I want to leave you guys with, please, if you know there's some underlying issues that you're struggling with, get some help. I believe firmly that you are more courageous for seeking help than you are for, you know, sucking it up, toughing it up. And that's very common in military and law enforcement, and even in some certain cultures. I know me growing up, if you ever mentioned that you were going to counseling, they would look at you like, oh, what, you're crazy? That's where they would instantly go. And they would downplay what trauma was, or instances of stuff that happened within the family that was completely inappropriate and messed up and should have been handled, but it wasn't. And a lot of times children and even adults that suffer trauma were basically told, hey, you know, it's over and done with, get over it. Or stuff like, well, you know, they're an old person, they're this, they're that, you know, just forgive them and let it go. I mean, if you're strong enough to do that, great, but you still need to get some kind of counseling to help you out. So yeah, that's our case out of Duxbury, Massachusetts. Very sad. And just want you guys to stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.